Welcome to our explainer. Right now in Sudan, the ground is shifting, and I mean that both politically and literally. We're going to connect the dots between four really key events: a high-stakes diplomatic visit to Turkey, a renewed international push for peace, a desperate protest on the streets of Darfur, and, believe it or not, an actual earthquake. Let's try to make sense of it all.
So, here's our plan. We'll start with General Burhan's trip to Ankara. Then we'll look at this new international effort for peace. From there, we'll zoom right down to the ground level to a powerful protest in Darfur and wrap things up with that earthquake in the east. Each one of these is a piece of the puzzle, so let's get started with that visit to Turkey.
All right, first up, a very, very significant state visit. We've got Sudan's leader, Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, making a trip to Ankara, Turkey. Now, you have to understand, this wasn't just some routine handshake chore. This is a big deal, and it really signals a deliberate move to strengthen the relationship between the two countries at a super critical moment.
But it's often the little things that tell the real story. And it wasn't just the formal meetings that got people talking. There was this video clip that surfaced, and while most of the greetings were, standard diplomatic procedure, the handshake between al-Burhan and Turkey's intelligence chief, Ibrahim Kalin, well, that one was different. It was noticeably warmer, friendlier. And that little moment hints at a much deeper, maybe more strategic, back-channel relationship than what we see on the surface.
And don't get me wrong, this was a full-blown state visit. We're talking the works. Official reception by President Erdogan at the presidential palace, the whole 9 yards. But the timing is everything here. With Sudan deep in conflict, a visit like this isn't just about strengthening ties. No way. It's about looking for support. And that could mean anything from political backing on the world stage to economic aid, or maybe even military hardware.
Okay, so while Burhan is out there shoring up support with allies like Turkey, there's another major effort happening at the same time, but on a much bigger scale. The international community is trying to kickstart the peace process inside Sudan. Again.
So what's the core issue here? Well, it's this brutal, drawn-out stalemate. Neither side seems able to land a knockout punch, but the fighting just grinds on, and progress is completely stalled. The proposed solution? A fresh diplomatic push, this time really led by the United States and Saudi Arabia, trying to create enough unified pressure to basically force both sides back to the negotiation table.
And the magic word here really seems to be coordination. It felt like for a while, a lot of these peace initiatives were just stuck in the mud. But now it looks like Washington and Riyadh are really ramping up their joint efforts. And the goal isn't just another temporary ceasefire that falls apart in a week. No, they're trying to create the actual conditions for a lasting political solution. The thinking is, without this kind of unified international support, any peace effort is probably doomed to fail.
And that is the essential question, isn't it? Because all of these high-level talks and diplomatic strategies, well, they can feel a world away from the urgent, day-to-day reality for ordinary people caught in the middle of this conflict.
Which brings us directly to the city of Al-Dayin in East Darfur. Here, families of men who were detained by the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, the RSF, they decided they just couldn't wait for the diplomats. They decided to take matters into their own hands.
And their strategy was really smart. Instead of protesting at some government building where they'd probably be ignored, they went right to the home of a powerful local tribal leader, a man named Mahmoud Madibo. Their demand was simple, direct, and powerful. Release our sons from the RSF prison in Yala. This is a perfect example of people turning to traditional community power when the official channels have just completely failed them. I mean, that quote, it just gets right to the heart of it. You can feel the desperation, the anxiety in those words. For these families, this conflict isn't about geopolitics or international relations. It's about the very real, terrifying fear that they might never see their sons again. Their protest is a cry for help.
So, as if the political and humanitarian crises weren't more than enough to deal with, our final story is about a totally different kind of instability. Over in eastern Sudan, Mother Nature herself decided to remind everyone just how fragile the situation really is.
A moderate earthquake measuring 4.4 on the Richter scale hit the region. Now, a 4.4 isn't a catastrophic city-leveling event, but it is absolutely strong enough to be felt. It's the kind of thing that shakes the walls and causes real alarm, especially for a population that's already living on a knife's edge.
So, let's walk through it. The quake hit at dawn on December 24th. The epicenter was out in the Red Sea region, near the city of Tokar, but people felt the tremor across several coastal cities. Now, the good news is that there were no immediate reports of major casualties, but you can imagine how unsettling an event like that is for people already under so much stress. And it's important to point out, this didn't come completely out of the blue. The Red Sea region is known for being geologically active, so tremors like this are unfortunately part of a known pattern. Of course, knowing the science behind it doesn't make it any less terrifying when the ground literally starts shaking under your feet.
So, when you step back and look at the whole picture, high-stakes diplomacy happening in Ankara, these renewed international peace talks, the desperate cries of families in Darfur, and a literal earthquake shaking the east, you're left with this one fundamental question. With so many forces pulling the country in so many different directions, can Sudan possibly find a stable path forward? And right now, that remains the crucial unknown.